Hello there and welcome to We Talks, brought to you by the World Energy Council. I'm Etna Trainer. Now, We Talks brings you a series of rich and diverse conversations that will explore what's really happening as we navigate the energy transition. As well as talking to producers and consumers, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at what this really means for societies, communities, and individuals. And in this series, we're really bringing together different voices, fresh ideas, and new perspectives. So I'm absolutely delighted now that I can welcome here for this edition of We Talks, the Director General of the Swedish Energy Agency, Robert Andrén. Robert, great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Etna, and thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity here to speak.
Well, it's great to hear about the great work that you've been doing, and indeed you've been doing all these years. You know, you're a real champion when it comes to innovation in energy. But talk to me perhaps about the grand purpose of accelerating energy innovation in the global arena.
Well, I mean, if we are serious in addressing the climate change, we need a clean energy transition. 75% of all greenhouse gas emissions worldwide are energy related. So, I mean, we must urgently make sure that our energy systems on all levels are fossil free and much more energy efficient than today. And I think here energy innovations are key, of course. Looking at the energy innovation from a purely Swedish perspective, our emissions constitute not more than 1.5 per mil of the total global emissions. But we can, and I say that we actually have an obligation here to contribute much more by working beyond our borders, exporting Swedish green innovations. And I think we have a lot of concrete examples of Swedish innovative companies where the primary market is not Sweden. We have Trine, a company with an innovative business model that has so far helped 2.5 million people in emerging countries to get access to clean electricity by crowdfunding models of solar panels. And we have Climon with their technical innovation converting low temperature waste heat into green electricity. And it has a huge potential to reduce emissions. So I think that our exports of green innovations for climate is also beneficial for in terms of employment, export revenues for Sweden. But of course, the grand purpose is combating climate change.
And indeed, it is something that everybody has to pay attention to, and every country and every person indeed can play their role. Talk to me about the power of disruptive innovation. And when we talk about disruption, sometimes I think around the world, sometimes people think it has quite a negative connotation, but you actually look on the very positive side of this. Talk to me a little bit about how that can be very positive for people's lives and indeed for their energy needs for the future.
Yes, I mean, to me, disruptive, transformative, transitional, they are just various ways of saying we need to change how we go about things. And I think the sole purpose of disruptive innovations is to speed up the move to sustainable systems and structures. And I mean, if disruptive innovation has a negative ring to it, it's because we haven't been good enough storytellers. We have not shown how such innovations will give the average person a better society, a better everyday life. I think almost all changes that requires a change in behavior or attitude needs a good storytelling and credible storytellers and a tangible reward. For me, and the way we are working at the agency, I think all disruptive energy innovations is about improving our everyday lives. It's about accessing cheaper, reliable electricity, heat, cooling. It's about cleaner and smarter transportation, mobility solutions. It's about smarter digital homes, cleaner and more resource efficient industries. Actually, it's about increasing flexibility for consumers and end users of energy. So, I mean, it's all about the positive way forward, actually.
Yes, indeed. And so it should be. I mean, it's very much, I guess, what the World Energy Council talks to about, you know, changing that narrative and making sure that everybody can contribute to the narrative. Talk to me, though, about what you think when you look around now and we're seeing new types of cooperation happening, even within the international oil companies. I mean, there's just a whole new movement actually that's going on. The World Energy Council likes to call it, I think, the wider energy plus community. But are you encouraged to see this dialogue shifting and to actually see some more people coming in to talk about and perhaps shift this energy narrative? And do you think it's going in the right direction?
Oh, yes, yes, I do. I mean, the way forward in dealing with global challenges is about cross-border cooperation. No country, no government, no municipality, no enterprise can deal with the climate challenge in splendid isolation. So, I mean, cross-border challenges require cross-border solutions that require cross-border co-creation. And so when I see what is happening now with new business constellations emerging, between previously competing industries. So you have brand new actors coming into the energy sector offering new cooperation solutions. I mean, this is very reassuring. As is when the oil industry makes public statements that their future priorities is in the field of renewable energy rather than in fossil fuels. As is the fact that a lot of big companies start their own accelerators and incubators to invest and collaborate with innovative solutions. And I think that these are important signals that the public sector and governments need to underline, endorse, and facilitate in various ways. I mean, change the legislation, for instance, or increase the support throughout the whole chain from an idea to a market product. And I think, to me, one particularly important role that we have in the public sector right now is to become much more efficient matchmaker for commercial collaboration between large companies and small, medium-sized energy innovative companies.
And that's a very healthy way of looking at it, I think. And it's something that will be welcomed by all and should be embraced by all. Now, you're very much involved in Mission Innovation's Avoided Emissions Framework. And this really supporting investors to identify solutions that can help reduce greenhouse gases. But also, you talk about how important measurement is. Explain this to our viewers a little bit.
Oh, yes. I mean, the Avoided Emissions Framework, I think for me, it's a very exciting and promising concept and model. It's all about giving a more educated and concrete understanding for customers, investors on the return of interest of an innovation, and not only money-wise, but also on its potential to reduce emissions when applied on the market. I mean, we need to start putting a climate impact label on innovations and view that label as an added value when you prioritize where to invest. I mean, is this an innovation that is compatible with the 1.5 degree target of the Paris Agreement or not? And if so, how compatible? And at the agency now, we have used this model to calculate the emission reduction potential of several hundreds of our companies that we support. And we have found that they can reduce greenhouse gas emissions with as much as 1 gigaton. And that is 20 times that of Swedish annual total emission. It's a hefty potential that lies in those innovations. And I think what we are doing now is gathering 1,000 innovations on the global level with a calculated potential of reducing almost 1/3 of the global emissions. And I think the key thing here with the Avoided Emissions Framework is that it's done in collaboration with other countries within the Mission Innovation process. It's done with the UN, the Framework of Climate Convention, but also other stakeholders, private stakeholders and NGOs. So, and we are refining the framework as we go along.
And also, I think it's so important to actually be able to deliver those numbers because that really shows the impact to people. And I think this is what everybody really needs to see, wants to see, needs to see, and now actually can make sense of it. Now, of course, when I look back on your career, you've had many strategic roles in the Swedish government, but here you are now the Director General of the Swedish Energy Agency. Tell us just a little bit about, I mean, what really drives you in terms of making sure that, you take this role, which of course you do you've mentioned it there with great responsibility, but tell us just a little bit more about actually what drives you on this.
Well, I mean, my personal drive has always been to make a difference, to use my position and my knowledge, experience to improve things. I want to hand over to those coming after me a better situation, a better starting point for their work with a clean energy transition, for instance. And as a Director General, I have the possibility to make quite some difference, I think, together with my organization, my experts. And I think about the words that the UN Secretary General had some time back. And he said, we are the first generation that can end poverty and the last that can end climate change. And I surely want to tell my grandchildren in the future that I made a concrete, valuable contribution to that accomplishment. I made my difference. And what I do know is that my grandchildren will be much more hands-on involved in the future energy system. I mean, the future sustainable digital energy system will be much, much more integrated to the everyday life of people. You have smart circular solutions linking smart homes with your electrical vehicle, with your own renewable energy production, with the grid, and you can sell and buy automatically with an app and so on and so forth. So to me, the clean energy transition will deliver a more just and equitable society. Particularly for women and children, I would say, because I think what we see in Sweden, at least, is that a more decentralized, digital, renewable, electrified energy system is much, much more accessible for women and young people. So
And of course,
I
also,
hope.
I think it's that awareness for everybody too. And when it comes to education, I think, this is also, I think, at the very heart of what you do. And there's some tremendous resources on your website. I need to go and look even more on that, and everybody should be having a look at it. But how important is that wider education, and particularly for the younger people?
Well, I mean, it's immensely important. If we are going to do this transition, this needed change of our energy systems and of our societies in order to become fossil-free and dealing with the climate challenge. I think that what we need now is new energy champions for the younger generations. And we need more girls applying to technical universities and becoming a natural part of the energy innovation system. So I hope that the school books from now on will have pictures of women and men in control rooms overlooking digital systems that are very complex but also very challenging. And I also see, instead of having, oil drilling men in rough sea or in coal mines as the champions for. But I think we are on the way there, and I am very optimistic in that sense.
And indeed, a lot to look forward to. So thank you so much for all of the work that you're doing, of course, and spearheading the great work, particularly in Sweden. And again, the impact that this will have around the world with other countries. So Robert Andrén, thank you so much, Director General of the Swedish Energy Agency. We're so grateful to have had you and had this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, Etna. Thank you so much.
And indeed, to all of you, thank you so much for watching us. Thank you for joining We Talks, of course, brought to you by the World Energy Council. We will continue this series of conversations. We want to make sure that we bring you up to date as we all navigate the energy transition. There's so much we can all do together. And from all of us here at the World Energy Council, I'm Etna Trainer. We want to keep you in touch. So stay in tune and stay in touch with what we're doing here at the World Energy Council. Once again, thank you so much.